Good morning, everybody. I'm back with another coffee games. That's what we're officially calling these videos now, I guess. I don't know. Do you have a better name? Write it in comments down below. Nothing insulting. It's too early for that. It's too early for that. But we're here with another coffee games discussion video all about Ubisoft. Again, wow. But there's more articles coming out about the dismantling of the image of Ubisoft with all these abusive leaders in Ubisoft that are being, getting rid of, but for good reason. And I want to go through an article, just some highlights from the article from Gamasutra, all about some new reports coming out that these Ubisoft leads are way more abusive than we ever thought. But before we get into that discussion, hi, how you doing? You doing good? Wow, that's great. I hope you answered good, because if you answered bad and I said wow, oh well. But if you enjoyed this video by the end, definitely give it a like and a share so that more people know about this, as well as, subscribing to the channel, hitting that notification bell so that you know when all these videos come out, as well as our weekly podcast, the Games and Groceries podcast. So if you enjoy it by the end, definitely hit those buttons so that you know when all these videos come out. And yeah, let's just get started. I want to bring up one real question here that most people might be asking, where this is kind of an abusive workplace for so many years. It seems like decades. But the biggest question people might be asking, why was this kept a secret for so long? So when people are asking why was this kept a secret, I mean, if you've ever worked in a toxic workplace before, or even were involved in a toxic relationship before, you know that it's a pretty tough situation. I mean, the most obvious one is, who's going to believe you? You might think that you're the only one and you don't want to spread false information. And in these toxic environments, they will sometimes gaslight you and threaten you that if you were to come out and say these things, well, your whole career is on the line. And most importantly, I think we need to understand that working at Ubisoft for some people is a dream job. Some people put in all the hustle, all the work, all the portfolios just to get their dream job. They might have grown up playing Beyond Good and Evil. Maybe they played Assassin's Creed. Maybe they actually enjoyed Watch Dogs. Who knows? I don't know you. But maybe they played all these games and it was their dream to get to Ubisoft and work on these titles that they absolutely adore. And now they're in this tough situation. I just want to read one piece of this article from Gamasutra. Link down below if you want to read the whole article, which I recommend you do. But this is talking about Ubisoft Quebec and Jonathan Dumont, who was the creative director behind Assassin's Creed Syndicate and Odyssey. But this article reads, they claimed that Jonathan Dumont often uses his physical presence to intimidate people by slamming doors, punching walls, or throwing objects, and has verbally abused staff members, reducing some to tears, using offensive terms and homophobic slurs. He allegedly also targets women, telling them how to dress or when to smile. And in that kind of environment, you're in a tough situation where you're finally working on these games that you wanted to work on for your entire life, and then you have Mr. Jonathan Dumont over here. But it's kind of like working in a toxic environment where you're just thinking that I need a job and this is my dream job, but if I were to tell anybody right now, I lose everything that I've worked for. So you have this decision to speak up, and some people are just too scared to. Not only because who's going to believe you, you might think that you're the only one doing these things. And if you ask any of your coworkers, what if they call you crazy? And then your job is on the line. So it's this, sort of gaslighting situation where you work in a toxic workplace and you are believing that you're the only one. But not only that, at Ubisoft, that might be your dream job, and you might have to leave your dream job for something else. And that might not be a lot for you watching, but some people work their way up to Ubisoft and they're finally working on a title like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and they're putting that dream on the line. It's such an unfortunate situation, and I think Jonathan Dumont knew that and took advantage of it. So that's kind of why I think this was kept a secret for decades, because you have all these developers years after years after years going through this. And that brings me to my second point. So then you might be thinking, oh, well, they have taken out some people. They have gotten rid of some, higher ups because they had the public image slandered. The inner circle that we talked about in the last video about Ubisoft, these people work so that they don't get caught by the public. They work at it so that they can do what they do and nobody can tell them different. And so when somebody slips up and their public image is slandered, well, guess what? They get rid of that person and then, the public image is back to normal. But what the public doesn't understand is that it's just one person who slipped up and now his public image is slandered, but people don't know about everything that goes on in the environment. When we get rid of somebody, it's only a drop in the bucket in terms of a toxic environment. I just want to read one more piece of this article. So this is a quote from somebody at Ubisoft saying, "I think Ubisoft has a culture of allowing creative directors to be aggressive and dominant, and they encourage it from editorial. They always choose large, loud, alpha male figures to lead projects, so they saw the bullying and harassment as part of the job. I always found Ubisoft had a hard time firing anyone. They really didn't want to. I've worked at places where people being rude or aggressive or even strongly opinionated would get you fired. But Ubisoft would just let people coast unless they did something publicly bad." And that's my point, is that saying that they only get rid of people when they've slipped up publicly. And it's us with the public where we start to think like, oh, good job, Ubisoft. Yay, you got rid of people. Yay. But they slipped up publicly. There's still a huge toxic environment in the background that we will never see. In fact, again, going back to the last video, this inner circle of Ubisoft, we never heard of for 20 years, for 20 plus years. Never heard of these people and what they did until 2020. And that's insane to even think about that all this stuff was going on right under our noses. The public didn't know about. But what the public did see was people who publicly slipped up, publicly came out and messed up and harassed people on a public scale. And so when people saw that, oh, they got rid of that person, so now everything's clean. No. And it's such a shame to think about. But I just kind of want to move into my next point, but just, kind of saying that even when a company takes out one person, that doesn't mean that everything in the company is fixed just because one person slipped up and they got rid of that one person. But let's move on to the next point. So now with these large reports, not only from Gamasutra, not only from the Bloomberg report, but with these reports coming out that their whole image is dismantled. Everything about Ubisoft right now is coming under new lights, and now we're starting to see that, oh my goodness, I was funding a company that was not only just plain old harassment, but sexually abusive and manipulative gaslighting, bringing women to tears. It says that. Really, please read the article from Gamasutra, because that's a heavy read right there. But all this was going down, right in our noses for years, decades. And, this isn't a new thing, but now the whole image is dismantled. Now, everything about Ubisoft that we'll ever think about is linked to these harassment charges, linked to these abusive work environments. So now Yves Guillemot, who is the CEO of Ubisoft, has a lot to consider. So now we're starting to see that things are starting to come into light. People are actually sharing their stories. Every single management of Ubisoft throughout the world now is coming under investigation. And so now this whole image of Ubisoft is under fire. And I'm sure if you're a brand manager over at Ubisoft, you have to work overtime, friendo. I'm sorry for you. Yves Guillemot has a lot of work to do. The brand management has a lot of work to do. The investigation has a lot of work, because this is going to have to take years to repair, years to unfold, and years to actually say that who is actually keeping their secrets and who is abusing their staff, and how can we get our image back as Ubisoft. But now, thankfully, there's reporters coming out and using their platform to share stories. And now we get to see it as a public that, oh man, they need to be held accountable for. And because the whole image is now dismantled from Bloomberg, from Gamasutra, from everybody sharing the stories, I think that it's time to reset, but are they going to? Are they going to take action? And it seems like they're about to do just that. So now that these reports are coming out, now that we have names and actions of these people, investigation can now go down. I mean, no one is safe at Ubisoft right now. Everybody is under scrutiny. Everybody's under investigation, including Assassin's Creed fans' favorite developer, Ashraf Ishmael, has been now terminated from Ubisoft in terms of the investigation. And a lot of people might be thinking, oh, they fired him because, he cheated on his wife. No, apparently he was also very abusive to his staff and very condescending, gaslighting. He was abusive of his power. And so they took him out because he was under investigation. So no one is safe right now. Like he took some time off, and in his time off, they fired him. So it's not like people can leave and then think they can come back. It's now a reset now. And that's unfortunate because I think what Ashraf did for Assassin's Creed Origins, and hopefully for, Valhalla and even Black Flag, I enjoyed his work for the Assassin's Creed titles, but enjoying his work as a human being, that's a different story. And if we have to sacrifice good Assassin's Creed stories so that the workers can stay safe, I'll take it. I'll be honest with you. And that's the thing I think we need to all remember, is that all of this has to be important for the workers at Ubisoft more than the fans. And we need to be thinking about that anybody that wants to work for Ubisoft, anybody that's currently working for Ubisoft, or who even has been before and left, they need closure as well. I mean, think about it. There's times where you leave in a toxic work environment or even a toxic relationship, and you want justice for what you had to go through. You want closure. So I think we need to keep Ubisoft accountable in terms of the workers, not us, the fans, right? But people who are working currently at Ubisoft or ever will work for Ubisoft. And also we need to understand that this is not going to take an overnight take. We're not just going to fire people and, oh, everything's fixed. Because we also have to remember that these people have predecessors. These people who are abusive of the power also trained other people in Ubisoft, and those people will soon come up into management, and maybe they'll be just as abusive. So this is going to take years of resetting. This isn't going to be a reboot and by 2021 everything's fixed. Wow. But this is going to take at least till the next generation of consoles. It's crazy to think about it that way, but really, you don't know who these people trained and who are going to come up and how much investigation has to go down, because it's a global company. They have offices all across the world. So this is a lot of investigation, and who even knows if Yves Guillemot has to go under investigation. So I think Ubisoft is going to do a massive reset, and I think they are. I think they're taking actions like terminating Ashraf Ishmael. That took a big step, and that's like the first step into a reset. It sucks when somebody loses their job, but your fault. But just because they fire one person or a couple people, or even, all the management from Ubisoft, that doesn't mean all the company is fixed. And I think they're taking action right now to reset their company. But we need to understand that this is going to take years, and we need to be patient, and not everything's going to be okay for the next 5 years, I'm going to say. But here's hoping that they can do this and that they can actually have a friendly environment. And finally, this is just all important for the video game industry, that people can't get away with stuff like this. But that's all I really have to say, is that Ubisoft is taking action to reset themselves. I think because of these articles coming out and people using their platforms to share these stories, it's causing Ubisoft to finally look at themselves and brand managers to actually, get to work. And investigation is ensuing, thankfully, because of these articles. But that's all I have to say about the matter. Write in comments down below. What do you think? Have you ever worked in a toxic work environment? Have you ever needed closure? Have you ever taken action against that toxic work environment to get rid of some people who were absolutely abusive of their power. Write in comments down below. What do you think of Ubisoft right now? Do you think this is going to happen for the future? Write in comments down below. And like I said, if you enjoyed this video, definitely give it a like and a share so that more people know about the channel, as well as subscribing to the channel so that you know when all these videos come out every Thursday, as well as our weekly podcast every Monday. So with all that said and done, thanks for having coffee with me and talking some games with me. I'll see you next time. And hey, wear your mask. Oopsies. Burp gang.